we found like having these big, strong cards that you has like a tangible physical feel to it. It's kind of a bit playful.
Today I'm joined by Blake Folgado, the principal designer at Cuvva. Blake, how are you doing today?
Really good, really good.
Thank you very much for coming down.
Liking your new office?
Yeah. Exciting place, good. More space this time as well, and we've got our own studio, we've got lights as well. So yeah, thanks for coming down. Firstly, for everyone out there who hasn't heard of it, could you explain to us what Cuvva is?
Yeah, so Cuvva is an insurance app, and for us, things are really important being flexible, transparent, and fast.
Yeah.
And the thing that really sets us kind of apart is that in insurance, there's normally lots of layers, and which is kind of one of the reasons people generally don't like insurance. You get very distant from kind of the company that you're getting insurance with, just from like comparison websites, stuff like that. So for us, we work only directly with the underwriter, so we can be like much closer kind of to our customer, and that's
okay. So where is the need for like a product? What is going on in the insurance space that like Cuvva needed to sort of service?
Yeah. So when Freddie, a co-founder, started it, he was so like a pub, and he was basically looking for why when the business he was running, people had to borrow his car a lot, and he would have to pay for like a month or a year of insurance for them to borrow his car. And he was like, it made no sense that you can't just get an hour, because that's all they practically need the car for. So for us, the starting point was just, how can we sell insurance for an hour?
Okay.
And now it's more like, how can we grow our product range and expand on new different insurance products? And generally, people don't stay with the same insurance provider every year. They play the game of swapping insurer.
Yeah.
And we're trying to move away from that and we're building a product that hopefully people want to stay with. And as they kind of evolve in their lives, we can cover them for different insurance products.
And you mentioned briefly that your co-founder sort of found use for this during the situation he was going through. So we're interested to find out what your, I guess, demographic age range is.
Yeah, so it's also it depends a lot on use case, but the majority is kind of younger millennials. So from like 18 to 32, 34 or so is our kind of core demographic in cities as well.
Yeah, and interesting you mentioned that, because something we were looking into not too long ago was how like something like the younger generation just aren't into travel insurance, and that's something else that you guys have recently are into as well. So where are you seeing this need, especially in the travel insurance space, for like younger millennials to kind of get in and be appealed to them?
Another thing for us is like the travel insurance is inherently it's quite a simple product, but the experience is normally quite cumbersome, and people it's like a third of people just don't buy travel insurance. Yeah. Younger people don't buy travel insurance, and a lot of reasons we found is that they think it's complicated, it's cumbersome, they think it's expensive when generally it's actually pretty cheap. But they won't find out because they just don't want to look at it. And for us, it's been about like how do you figure out to want people to actually buy travel insurance to protect themselves, like something could happen, you lose your bags. But also making it like incredibly fast. So like we kind of say that you could buy it on the runway. It's that quick for us at least. And then you just have it there, and you don't need to worry about like, let me go on my emails and find my policy docs, or not remembering who you bought insurance with. You just know that you had insurance, but hope you remember it's like it's all in your app, and it's really quick.
Sweet. And before we get into the journeys, it would be good to I guess a bit more about you. Firstly, like what specifically do you do day to day at Cuvva, and what was your role to Cuvva? Where did your design journey start?
Yeah, fair enough. So I'm the principal designer at Cuvva, so lead the design team across different teams. So the kind of design team split up across different product teams, and for me, my main focus is like how do we maintain consistency and also push like the bigger vision across all the different teams. And from like a design point of view, but also a product point of view. And for me, the way I found Cuvva was quite an interesting way. So before Cuvva, I was working in toy design. There's a really quite random segue from toy design to insurance. So I started in toy design, so that was stuff like Lucasfilms, like Universal Studios, like basically packaging, and then the product design itself. And like the manufacturing side quite a bit, and then moved into like co-founded a company which is like a photo sharing kind of app. It was kind of like Snapchat stories before Snapchat stories. Didn't become Snapchat, unfortunately. So that was like for a few years, and learned very much from going from like physical kind of product design and manufacturing to like software, and that was always my goal, was like to work in kind of software. And after that, worked in food delivery.
Okay.
So we had a fast food delivery company in London. Did that for a few years. Took a break, and then was coincidentally speaking to a friend about what to do next. And for me, like, something that seemed interesting was basically either banking or insurance, because no one likes insurance and no one really likes banking. So I was like, that sounds like, and it's a kind of an industry that's really can be very exciting.
Yeah.
The products are so personal. So I kind of reached out. I think there was a role open for Cuvva, so I reached out, and then that was the start. And for me, the biggest thing was when the amount of times I needed to insure a car for an hour at the time was like ridiculous.
Yeah.
But then there was nothing that could do that, or it was a complete pain.
Yeah.
So when I saw Cuvva, I was like, I'll go in for that.
Yeah, interesting story, because toy design, like actual physical product design to like, I mean, what we now know as product design, but more software design. So interested to know, like, what have you taken from toy design, product design, I think brought into?
I think working like in sort of manufacturing is just like the details are huge. And if you mess up on the details, then especially manufacturing, it takes like 3 months, 6 months to correct a mistake.
Okay.
And I think knowing, like, at the time as well, the company was very small, so you kind of had a lot of hats. So you're like doing the illustration, like product design, or even design the manuals and specifying how many batteries. And if you get that wrong, which I did get wrong, there's like you need like a lot of people in a factory have to like put the stickers on to correct your little mistake that you could have, like, if you paid a bit more attention. So I think for me the biggest takeaway is the attention to detail in toy design.
Sweet. And interested to know about sort of Cuvva's design team, even like overall product team as well. Like, how is it split up? How are your sprints run? How are your sort of research into the sprints run? Like, interested to hear about that.
So the design team's still pretty small, so we have 5 people.
Okay.
And they're all essentially product designers, and they can kind of have they can do a full gamut of the work in any team. And each designer is in a product team. So we have like a platform team, which is building like the core infrastructure of the product, and that can be just like not just the UX, I mean, not just like the billing, payments, logging in, so all the stuff that has to work, they're in control of, and like kind of the walls of the product. And then also the core kind of UX of all the experience within the product. And then you have like the more feature team, so like a team that's building different new insurance products. Another team which is building the growth aspects of the products. We have a team which is like building our internal tooling, so all of our stuff for like customer operations is all we build all ourselves essentially.
Wow.
So we're like now at 24, so we're around 24/7 support. We're under like 50 seconds. We're below than a minute now in terms of average response.
Wow.
So as we've even scaled, we've like figured out to get faster at responding to customers. And for us, that's been a big like differentiator, is that we can respond so quick and be really helpful.
Exciting.
And then in terms of the research, so normally within a product team, they are kind of independently they'll engage in their own research to figure out, like, check if their assumptions are true. And we also test quite a lot. So throw it out to a few percent of customers and figure out quite quickly whether it's a good or bad idea. And then kind of with the anticipation that hopefully it goes well, we can kind of move quickly to get it out.
And for any Cuvva customers out there, it will be cool to know, is there any way that they can like opt in for testing, or is that something you just reach out to people sporadically?
Yeah, so we're definitely trying to build a closer core group of like people that can test. So a lot of people reach out on like our chat. And we actually recently, very much for building new stuff, we're getting people to come in quite often. So like, or we have calls, and that's nearly every other day or so, is people either coming in for an hour or having a call. But then in terms of the testing side, it's normally a case we kind of pick a few percentage of certain demographic customers and just test it with them.
Sweet.
But it's definitely something that people can reach out and if they want to be engaged more.
Exciting times, man. So I guess like we jump straight into these journeys. So the first one we'll be looking at is the sign up for Cuvva. So what you get is your good old splash page, and you jump into one of the insurance journeys, and then what you're visited is just kind of like this carousel of features and also what you'll need as well, which is pretty interesting to me as well. We'll jump into that.
I found that was one that if you by adding that thing between, just so people can figure out this is for me.
Very, very like
tell them early if they're not gonna, if it's not right for them.
And that's something I'm like really interested in as well. So we'll jump into that. Then after you sign up, you send a magic link, gets sent into your email. You go into your email, you go retrieve that magic link, and it jumps you straight back into the journey, which is pretty cool as well. Because often I find that with magic links, sometimes it takes you off the app journey and into like, let's say, mobile web journey. So big fan of that. But one thing I wanted to jump on first was illustrations. It's something I'm like constantly harping on about here, just because I'm a big fan of it, and I loved how it's been introduced to product design over the years. Firstly, before we get into like the specifics, but where does your illustration style come from? Like, what is the ethos behind it? Because it is quite like playful.
Yeah. So it's definitely something that we want. Hopefully, people in the illustrations see like a bit of a story in it. And it's something that's always definitely evolving as well. Is how do we kind of tell the stories a bit better through like illustrations?
Yeah.
And we found it's a tough balance to get photos right. We really think at the moment like kind of still refining our style with illustrations, and it's something that we can hope people recognize over time is like that's Cuvva.
Sweet. And one illustration that like really stood out to me, and I'll talk a bit about it why, because something we do over here at 11FS is jobs to be done, a kind of like research methodology, and the thing that I take away as a designer from jobs to be done is the emotion states that we find out, because it really harps in on why what job a user needs to get done, and what emotion that this user is having currently from not getting that job done. And I feel like peace of mind was a really interesting one that I saw, because I mean, essentially what you're telling them is how long it'll take, but I guess the manner in which you've displayed it is very much trying to put the user at ease. And I wanted to get to ask you about what was the decision for that particular piece of illustration?
Yes, I think in that screen where it's also telling them that if they need any help, we're like a minute away. So it's kind of there that before they even make an account, we're kind of telling them what what we can do for them, just to support them if there's a challenge. And definitely understand that like insurance, we're about to start giving us information. It's quite a sensitive subject, and we don't want them to feel that they're in any way like forced to kind of go down the process. It's very much like a calm process at their own pace.
Nah, I like that. I'm a big fan of that personally. And something else I wanted to discuss as well: tone of language, tone of voice and language. Once again, chilled, playful. Is that demographic specific, or is that just the kind of persona you want Cuvva to have? Yeah,
so it's actually like we've spent quite a lot of time. It's definitely something that's always refining. Is like what is the language you're trying to speak? And we did like quite a few big sessions with the team itself. And we figure out like how do we kind of speak as a team, and how do we communicate like to ourselves and about the product, and then how can we kind of bring that out in our own product? And it's very much just come from how the team is really, rather than what we want to portray too much. In many cases as well, it's written by lots of different people, so it is just a known like way that the team kind of speaks to customers. Is not one particular person that kind of like this is how Cuvva sounds. Sweet. We do quite a bit of training now on like how to get everyone in the same place so they can feel comfortable, because we have a lot of copy throughout the product, like customer support, all sorts. Email everywhere.
Makes sense. Also wanted to get into color choice as well, because something my head of design is pretty big on is just color psychology, and it kind of like drills it down in to us quite heavily. So I mean, you guys have like blue, yellows, and greens. Is there like psychological reasons behind these color choices?
I think it's just like colors that for us, I guess, they're easy to recognize. They're not too subjective really. It's kind of they're bright, they're vivid. And hopefully, like the way they contrast together is quite exciting. And also, you can also use them really well to be calm and then green we definitely use as like a call to action kind of color. So kind of a few rules in place that you should only really see it once every screen kind of thing, and not you should always recognize as the thing that is ideally probably the thing to do. Big fan of your green as well. We're going to get onto that later as well, because I feel like you guys very purposeful with how you use that. Also, wanted to ask, because I mean, before we got on air, we were talking a bit about sort of some of the troubles people have in onboarding, and some of the troubles we found in like our client engagements is issues with legal. So one of our most recent projects we've had having to display privacy notices or terms and conditions, and it's just stuff that comes from the legal guys. What troubles did you guys face? Because I noticed that towards the end of you take them through each privacy policy stream and each terms and conditions screen. So I wanted to know what kind of troubles you guys had with legislations and whatnot. And that was more of just, that was actually not really from compliance. That was more just us as a team deciding that we want to be upfront about it. So I think that was in a similar time to when we removed like Facebook login. So which is one of the reasons also we use Magic Link, that is like much more secure. You don't have to worry about a password. It could very much, people really easily repeat their use the same passwords. And by us moving away from Facebook just for privacy concern, and that we don't feel that maybe like insurance is appropriate for logging with Facebook. It was a very similar time to where we just kind of were upfront about like our GDPR stuff, and also like very purposely upfront about how often do you want us to reach out, rather than so you're very clear, like, okay, I've opted in to them to email me every few times a year, rather than I just agree and I'm just getting spammed completely.
No, sweet. Thanks for that. And you even answered my next question. I was going to talk about magic links as well.
We've had a few times, so we did like use testing, and there's been a few times, where people like, it's quite interesting how many would actually read a fair amount of it, which is great, rather than just glossing over of like your privacy notes and stuff. So people do have an acute attention to like looking at some of the details a bit.
Okay, sweet. I guess next we'll jump into the driver insurance KYC. So what we have here is, I guess, kind of like the pages with like your lists in them, list of journeys, and then you jump straight into, I guess, putting a car up for insurance, and then you enter the number plate. Yeah, there we go. And then what you have here is like swipe to find out how many hours, as you mentioned, to choose which how long you want insurance for. You then presented with this screen, which is basically just gives you like a preliminary sort of what your policy is.
Yeah, all the details inside.
You then jumped into a KYC screen, which is asks for your identity verification. After that, I believe it then takes you into facial identification as well, which is pretty cool. And then after that, I think we're pretty much near the end of that. But I guess it's just basically introduced, like getting you through the KYC part of the...
It's a tricky one as well. We've adjusted it many times. I'm just trying to find out where's the right placement, where it doesn't feel too kind of cumbersome.
Because that's something I was interested in, where, like, why KYC here? Why not? Like, you could have just go all out of the way in the beginnings. Yeah. And is that something you tested and found out users preferred it?
So before that, we actually had the KYC directly after you. So one thing that's really important for us is like, we don't want to ask something we don't need. Yeah. And if we get photo of your face and your license, but you don't even know how much it could cost. Yeah. We've just had barriers really. Yeah. And each one of those is like kind of like, I don't need, why am I showing a photo of my face? And we definitely don't need it to figure out the price. We get that beforehand if we ask for details about your license. Yeah. So from the point where you have a price, and especially that final kind of summary screen, if you are happy with that, then we feel it's necessary or fair to ask for kind of KYC info. Yeah. But there's definitely, it's kind of, we definitely tested a lot, and even that kind of bottom sheet that comes up and you kind of see the summary of like how much you need is left. We found that's also like really good effects on like conversion and stuff like that.
And that was even another one I was going to mention as well, because that widget in particular was just like great piece of like UX. I'm a big fan of it, and something I'm going to mention a couple times is because our UX lead once again hammers this into us. Is like Nielsen Norman's 10 like UX heuristics, and 2 of them are like recognition rather than recall, and visibility of system status, which I think that widget in particular gets done really well. Yeah. So yeah, no, I'm a big fan of that because as you said. It's kind of good to, I guess, get some of it up front and make the onboarding as quickly as possible. And we were talking before as well.
I mean, if you look at like the stuff required to get a quote, all the stuff we ask is only the stuff that's required to get a quote, really. Like we don't really ask anything more than we need before showing you a price. And that's those pictures are basically the last things. Yeah.
Sweet. And also on that widget there, can you select which one you want to enter as well?
Yeah, you can do it in any order.
Another piece of like visual greatness that I saw on that page was the number plate input form. Once again, back to good old Nielsen Norman heuristics.
This guy
talks about matching the match between system and real world, and I think for me that was like really cool because even the font you used is very much reflective of number plates.
It's the font.
Yeah, it is the actual font. So. Big fan of like how you guys have made it feel as lifelike as possible. So yeah, and I just wanted to take my hats off to you guys on that one as well.
A bit of skeuomorphism every once in a while.
It works, and it makes it stand out. So like I said, kudos to you guys. Also, what I was going to ask as well was we have days kind of like when hours kind of slid across. So for me, it was interesting because you have a lot of space on that screen, and I don't know how far the scale goes, whether it's like 10 or like a whole day, but you have a lot of space to kind of like actually just list them out, and instead of like increasing this like swipe. So why did you opt for that as opposed to just giving it to them?
Yeah, we wanted to like, This is probably, that screen is probably the most different variations of design.
Yeah.
We found like having these big, strong cards that you, as like a tangible physical feel to it, it's kind of a bit playful, and also incredibly clear what you're focusing on.
Okay.
So when we had a list, you could have a list of prices, and you could maybe get mixed up with what. But here it's like your focus is all on one thing at a time, and you're only really focusing on one, rather than kind of doing a lot of comparison where you can kind of just move easy between each one individually.
Okay.
And we've had lots of different variations.
Yeah.
Figure out what feels kind of right.
No, that's a good justification for that. And how far does that go down?
So it goes, I think it's like 4 increments of hours.
Okay.
And then it goes 1 to 28 days.
Okay, sweet.
But it definitely skews like more towards like the first few hours, and then the first few days is the majority of like stuff.
Sweet.
But there is a little thing that we showed about. We can also show for each price, there's like a little pop-over that comes at the bottom if you want to see it, and it shows you how the price is calculated.
Okay.
And you can see like a very clear view of like to get to that price. There's all the things that kind of got you there.
And I noticed that you have a lot of that throughout the app, where it's like you take like enough time to just kind of like explain things as well. And is that something like you're finding that people kind of need to be not handheld, but people need to like have things explicitly explained to them, or at least have the option to like define, have things defined.
And this was like like putting their focus on one thing at a time, because otherwise you do like generally through like a website there's like a ton of information, and it's either all shown at once or it's kind of separated from each other. You can't really figure out what's going on. Whereas with us, like even the little sheets at the top that come up on top, they're very easy to just pull away. And you put your focus back to where you were. We don't try to like put you screen by screen by screen by screen. Let's try to as little as we can, kind of rather use the little sheets at the bottom so it feels a bit. You can kind of focus on it, look back if you want, pull it down, pull it back up, and all sorts of stuff.
That's interesting, because I know you use like tooltips in a similar way as well. And there is like some discussion around whether like tooltips hide that transparency, like one layer behind it needs to be. But I guess, we'd love to hear from you.
We'll probably get into it in a bit, but the travel insurance one was, in the use testing a lot, so do like quite intense sessions every once in a while, of like 10 sessions in one day, an hour each. So it's like you basically don't have a break. You basically have the prototype or the design, and you can kind of keep spot putting kind of like tags on what people are mentioning. And a lot of the times you show tooltips is where we'll hopefully explain enough that they get the point of it. And then if they opt in to see a little bit more, there's that information's there. But the general rule we try and play is like enough should be in context should be there. But if you want to find more, there's an opportunity.
Yeah. Sweet. And I said we'll get onto this at some point, but the use behind green, I was a big fan of it just because...
so it was we went away for a weekend to figure out the green colour.
I can actually imagine. I wouldn't be surprised if you did, because like I said, that there are, so for me, like I said, because colour psychology is something that's been hammered in for us, and for example, 11FS has primary colours, mint green, and it's something that we are finding sometimes hard to design elements for, because green automatically has this like positive connotations with, and so you can't litter it everywhere, because it just automatically, even if it's like a CTA to like cancel out, it doesn't feel right. But I feel like here you guys use it always with positive connotations, so it's always with visibility, or system state progress bars, or upon the completion of tasks. Or would be interested to hear about like the CTA rule as well, because like you have some green CTAs, you also have some the bluish purple CTAs, you also have some white ones. We'd love to hear like more about like the use of green. And
so first so you have green is always like the call to action on the screen. There should only really be one thing that's green, which is hopefully the button, and we don't have it positioned to the right, so it's always like kind of egging you on to keep going. And then only the payment one is the full width, so it kind of goes from like little one to then full width, and then that's to kind of pay, and then it's like to complete the transaction. And we really use green as like the primary action button, or the go button is kind of what it's referred to.
That makes sense.
And also like if you're going to submit information, we use green. And then blue is more for like a second option, or other things to pay attention to. So we call it like a highlight color. So we have go is always one thing, then blue is highlight, or indigo.
Sweet. And let's jump into the travel insurance journey now. So here it's jumped straight into the travel insurance journey, and what you get is this hero. Will be interesting to find out what powers that as well. But you get to kind of swipe through a number of sort of journeys, and I guess it's pretty cool because you've also got these like cute little prompts underneath, Sun, Sea, and Sangria, under like Spain and whatnot. Then once you jump into one of them, you get to that kind of carousel explaining what the thing is as well. Also, not to miss that you have underwritten by AXA everywhere as well. You're then able to choose sort of which country you want to go to, get a quote off the back there. Then it just kind of takes you through like a journey of what dates you're going through and what dates you're leaving from. Something I wanted to ask as well about this particular onboarding journey was, let's call it onboarding journey, was why you choose one question per page, because this is something I ask pretty much everyone when we get here, because you also then when you get to medical questions just kind of give them a long list as well. So why did you choose like one question per page? What is the reasons you choose between various onboarding various input forms?
So definitely to align their focus to one task, and then also if with that one page you can kind of put their focus on one set of rules or information to follow. Especially like the travel insurance, picking when you start, when you leave, and when you return are two. You may think it's like some rules to it. And you can, like, it's when you leave your home or some of the specific things you want to definitely put the focus on, like getting that right. And the medical questions, we actually had a lot of different designs there where we had like over lots of screens, one screen, all sorts. We found that if you can figure out putting in one screen where they don't really need to scroll, they can just kind of tap through quick. And then there's prompts for each one. It's kind of worked quite well.
And even on that sort of medical screen, something that I noticed just before is that you have like this kind of arrow that says chat here. And it looks like a very intentional prompt because that chat is actually in a lot of places, but I feel like in this one
every screen, every screen's always there.
But in this one place, you kind of like please chat here kind of thing. So I want to know why you kind of focused on that.
There's definitely one that spawned from like use testing where you're testing the product and you bring this question up, and it's so kind of it's very sensitive, and you feel it in the room when you're testing the product that it's like, oh, we've got to ask these questions. You normally just say answer no to all of them. But it was a place we wanted to like slow it down and be like, this is also very important the way if you answer them correctly, but they slow the pace down a bit and be like, if you want, you can chat if you have any concerns or questions about like if you something in the back of your head's like, is this covered or not covered? We wanted to like make it clear. They don't know by that point that there's chat there, definitely want to emphasize it more.
Sweet. Also something that was of interest to me as well, and it's something that I talked to like a loads of people who work in insurance, that you have like, so you have travel, you have you have car insurance. Two very different journeys, but like all under the Cuvva kind of app. So how do you unify the experience?
That's like the thing that keeps you up at night, is trying to figure that out, especially if you have figure out like more products. Is like how, if you add a home insurance or contents insurance, how does it work then? Do you have 3 buttons on the home screen? 4 buttons? Like doesn't really make any sense. So we definitely pay a lot of attention of when working on new stuff, how is that going to evolve the product. But insurance generally is always the same set of questions, like what are you protecting, when to start, when to end, how like all the different things to control. So like the final summary screen, try to keep it very similar. The start, the weight, very similar. Inputs you put in, very similar. But that's probably like, I think that's the thing that makes you have a good opportunity in an app to try and unify it as much as you can. And that's definitely a big thing, is like how do you keep that consistency between products. It's so easy to do the tap a button and you go to a website, and the website's built by a different team and it'll look completely different. Tap another product, different website. And for us, like, you don't go to the underwriter, you go directly, you just do it through us, and then we pick underwriters for you, and we kind of get them to bid against each other. So it's very complete opposite of like traditional insurance. We go on like a comparison website, and you have like all these companies like pick us, and there's all these different tick boxes and crosses, whereas you just use Cuvva, and depending on what you answer, we'll kind of find the right underwriter for you and surface the right price. So if you, in the future, you have like medical condition, then we could find an underwriter that covers that acute medical condition and then give you that underwriter. But for the customer, it just feels like they're using Cuvva all along. And we've done lots of stuff in the background to kind of get them the right product.
Sweet. And even on that note, what you mentioned a bit earlier was, what you see often is pages or journeys created by totally different teams. So how do you go about ensuring that all of it feels very, very Cuvva-like? Because you did mention that like your designers are put into like, I guess, different feature teams. Is it like you have like a design system that everyone like has to be used from? Like how do you keep that overall Cuvva feel?
So like as a team, in terms of process, we have like a lot of opportunity for like show and tells and like critiques within the week. And then we have like kickoffs on the weekend. We use Figma, which is really easy to get. Everything's very easy to see. And that's a great way of kind of matching some of the consistency. Then from like implementation point of view, definitely something that's always like we're spending a lot more time now on the design system side rather than it's very easy to call it a design system until it actually really is one.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing at the moment is just we collaborate a lot. Teams are very physically very close, a lot of communication, and try to get things the same. But like even going through this journey, I can see there's like all these little things you always spot.
Yeah.
But it's always like, how do you keep like refining it as a team?
And then you said show and tells between the design team every
Yes, it's design and content team.
Okay. Nice.
And then we have it in the event space, so it's like a public event. Everyone can just listen in.
Okay.
So it's a great opportunity for like customer operations people and all sorts of different teams just to listen in and be like, this is what's coming up, changing in the product. And then we have a company-wide show and tell on Fridays. So everyone in the company comes and sits down, and then each different teams show their work.
Slight tangent, but just because there is a Figma sticker on my laptop.
Yeah, fair.
And it's the debate in the community right now. Why Figma over Sketch?
So we were on Sketch. We use Sketch and Abstract.
Okay.
Like as to the most complexity I could figure out, like as much connection of all different symbols and stuff and colors and all sorts. But now for me, when I tried out Figma, I was a bit apprehensive, and then the change for me is like going from like designing apps in InDesign to doing it in Sketch. Yeah. That's like the profound jump, like as a team I found. And then collaboration between all different people in the team. You can do a lot things a lot faster, a lot more accurately. Like a lot more. You can, if you want to work on like design system, there's a lot more room for that. I found it's like a game changer for the company. And it's definitely made something where we don't share screenshots if we can, just share Figma files, and everyone go in, comment, and like everyone's on board in the company. Yeah. And it's like a very well-known like way of within the team. Everyone in the company has access now to look at files, rather than before it's like, well, this was an option. You'd have to show them an InVision link or something, or that a lot of people don't have access to Abstract or Sketch. Yeah.
And when you said everyone in the company, is that quite literally everyone?
Literally everyone. Yeah. So everyone has an account.
Yeah, no, we're a bit, we safeguard our Figma files just because we don't want anyone moving our elements about. But we might open.
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge, like getting that side right. So we've like set files up in a way that hopefully helps not prevent it, but like lessen the odds.
Yeah, sweet. And this one is a bit more finicky, a bit more particular, just because it's me. So in the accordion, you have. Towards like the final pages, you have like an accordion where one opens and the other closes, and you can never have more than one accordion open at once.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, I'll say that the current idea is like just to focus on one thing and not split focus. Yeah, cool. And also just pushes the screen down more. And you generally find people only really focus on one thing at a time. Okay. With when we use tests, so they're definitely not. They'll look at like one. They'll kind of tap around and change. They'll tap the information modal for say cancellation, adjust it, and then go to the next one, read info. Okay. But I actually very much found it rare that they would open all three or open even two at once. So it's kind of like tap one, tap one, tap one. Okay. And it's kind of just rather than having three things open, you just have your focus on one. Especially when you're on the last one, you don't have three sliders all over the screen. Yeah.
No, it makes sense. I guess that's pretty much all we have from our journeys today. I guess like before we get you out of here, where do you want to take Cuvva next?
Yeah, so the thing for Cuvva now is like how do we build more products faster and kind of set the scene where, for a customer's point of view, even if you're learning to drive, you can use Cuvva. When you want to buy like all different types of car insurance, we can cover that and be like the one place that you can kind of use all sorts of insurance and not swap every year. And then even now, like, how do we add more value than just the insurance side? So whether that's like storing your documents, checking like the price of petrol, all sorts of different things, so we can kind of like add more value than just the insurance transactional side. And that's like is a big focus of us now, is like adding more value than just buying insurance. And that's so it's growing more products and making it more than just buying insurance.
Sweet. And you mentioned it briefly earlier as well. Do you have any ideas on how like you add all these new insurance products without sort of cluttering your screens?
Yeah, so that's just like bigger changes to figure out. Okay. And that's like I think cracking that is like is a big goal. And how do you kind of make big adjustments where it feels very fluid, but you have lots of different choice. And I think big thing for us, adding more context. Like we know a lot. The thing that differentiates a lot is we know a lot about the customer. So how do we service what we know in a way that's helpful? Okay. So if you land at an airport, we're like, oh, you're gonna want to get travel insurance, or also you go to someone's house, do you want to borrow their car, all different kind of things, ideas that how can we kind of preempt some things and be a bit more contextual.
And as much as you're allowed to tell us, do you know when the next sort of insurance product is coming out?
So if you Message me.
Yeah.
In the app, I actually have a thing that's a wait list that
Okay.
should appear to a small amount of people.
Yep.
But that's us working on new annual insurance or subscription.
Okay.
So a different type of car insurance, not the traditional like pay it for a year, pay it for a month. So we have a new product that we're actually getting people in now.
Okay.
It's in the app to sign up, and it's completely it's like an incredibly flexible version of car insurance. You can cancel whenever you want. You get a refund if you don't need it. There's no deposits.
Oh wow.
For like a younger person, it's a big change. You can build up your no claims, cancel it, renew it again, and carry on with your no claims. All sorts of cool stuff.
Sweet. No, we'd love to.
And then also the difference with like insurance is like with us we can keep adding more products to it. It's not like you buy the insurance product and then it doesn't change. Like as we evolve our products, you can add that and tag it on to the products later on.
Okay, now it would be good to get you guys on here again when you guys have built that out. That sounds exciting. But I guess that's all we have time for today, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in. Stop by next week for more insights and user journeys. If you want to see more of 11FS Pulse, head over to pulse.11fs.com, where you can also request a demo. If you've got any questions about the product or want to suggest a journey for us to include on our platform or the show, hit us up on pulse@11fs.com or find us on Twitter at 11fs Pulse. Blake, where can people find out more about you and Cuvva?
So we're actually quite active on like Twitter and Instagram and stuff. But then fun about me, I need to get more active on Twitter. It's like I'm just a retweeter.
Yeah. Us both.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, best way to keep up to what I do, just try the product out.
Yeah,
check what changes there are.
Sweet. Once again, thank you so much for coming down. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now, guys. Homescreen is a show all about product design, where we showcase some of the best examples of user experiences from the 11FS Pulse research platform. Pulse is what our customers use to do their benchmarking, and it includes over 2,500 user journeys from financial service products all around the world.